This is one of the largest meadows I've ever made, and it's happened over many, many years. But this is what the garden looked like on the first day that I showed up. There was basically a fence, a deer fence, to keep the deer out of the lawn area that surrounded the house, and then most of the rest of the quote garden was essentially just disturbance ecology from the forest being cleared. So all the grasses that you see in the foreground are all non-native, and many of them are considered invasive. And the property began as a summer camp for underprivileged children. So there were these very odd playground structures. And here you see the irrigation pond, the lake. It's about 1 acre in size, but it was basically a bathtub ring of disturbance ecology. There was a floating platform out in the middle of the lake that the kids could swim out to, but there was really no way to access the water. And on the far side of the lake is essentially a dam. We really began by getting rid of the disturbance ecology, and the meadow began planted mostly from plugs and small starts. Here you see some of the first plants arriving on the project. Now, we did have to kill the lawn, so one of our first steps was indeed to spray Roundup and completely kill the lawn. So once the lawn was killed, we basically spread mulch out over the entire surface of the areas to be planted, with mulch that was basically generated cleaning up the surrounding forest. We did no soil improvement. We did rototill to make it easier to plant, to loosen up the soil, but we did not add any mulch or soil improvements to the actual soil. We basically just laid down a couple inches of mulch. Here you see the mulch going down, and you see us irrigating. So even after we put the mulch down, we continued to irrigate the bare soil just to make sure that any additional weedy grasses or weeds would be germinated, start to grow, so we could eliminate them and make sure we had a clean slate going forward. You can see faintly the pathways that we laid out with spray paint there on the ground. And if you look very closely, you can see the beginnings of the little tiny plugs that have just been added. The disturbance ecology that existed before we got to the planting was actually some pretty thuggish weeds. So it was really important to get a clean start. This was perhaps the most important pre-planting step, was to make sure that all the disturbance ecology and the old lawn was gone. Here's the beginnings of the meadow going in. You can see all the little plugs coming up through the mulch, and you can see that different kinds of mulch were put in here or there. It's not important what the mulch is. It's important that the mulch go down. You can see in the center here an area that was planted earlier. We wanted to show the client what the grasses look like when they fill in. So we initially did this test planting. A few months down the road, you can see the plugs are starting to be visible, but it still has a long way to go. We had to continually work to clean the water's edge. It took repeat applications of herbicides to eliminate the disturbance ecology. There was really no other way to get it done efficiently and quickly and on budget than to use the chemicals that we needed to use. Properly used, it's a one-time application of these chemicals, and now the garden is pretty much chemical-free. We did take the deer fence down around the house, but one of the most important things we did to really have fun with the plantings was to push the deer fence as far to the property edge as possible, thereby ensuring us to be able to use plants that otherwise would be Haagen-Dazs for the deer.